Yeah, we got everything live here. I'll check the, the quality, because I don't have I don't have that countdown thing yet, and I'm gonna get that. But either way, welcome to the stream. If you have not heard, the good Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey is on hour number 16 of his filibuster in the U.S. Senate against President Donald Trump and his administration. Now, you may not know what a filibuster is. We'll learn about a filibuster today, because we have to get to a point of understanding process as a society and a people. And what's happening now for the last 16 hours, U.S. Senator Cory Booker has decided that he is going to speak and have a marathon speech until he is physically unable to go. Now, you may not know he's a former football player, did not play in NFL. I believe he played at the University of Stanford or Stanford University, however they want to say that these days. But he could have been a tight end. Think Shannon Sharp. Think Ron Gronkowski. Think anybody. Damn Darren Waller, right? Darren Waller as a U.S. Senator. And that's essentially what we have today is Cory Booker deciding that, you know what, he's tired, he's fed up of the Trump administration, DEI, the attacks on elderly, attacks on affordable housing, the attacks on everything. And they have decided to say, you know what, we are going to have a conversation here. And what's happening in the process is he's been speaking overnight while you've been sleeping, while you've been preparing for work, putting your family to bed, waking them up, whatever, preparing dinner, like reverse engineering it back to where it started yesterday. He posted and tweeted that he's going to have a filibuster, and here's where we are. And I guess the most beautiful part about this is democracy, quote unquote, at work, right? This is Congress at work. And even though there are a lot of things happening that you may not pay attention to, that you may not feel directly impacting you, this is actually what you pay or elect people, not pay, but well, they are paid through your tax dollars. But this is what they're elected to do, to quote unquote fight for you, right? Because I did make a post on TikTok the other day, basically riding in the car saying, like, you know what, I'm tired of these elected officials protesting like activists or advocates or whatever, as if they're not elected officials, as if they don't know process. And this is part of the process to say, you know what, if you are going to have a majority here, and we know there are elections today, Elon went out to Wisconsin for a judge pick. There's also 2 special elections in Florida for people that were picked to be in Trump's cabinet that opened up opportunities there as well. But it really just opened a greater conversation, a greater need for slimmer margins in the House, to where everyone has to say, you know what, let's put on this show. Some people, at first I did think it was performative for Booker doing what he's doing, but also realizing that there's a part of process that you elect people to be in. And knowing the rules of engagement in this war of policy and legislation, this is key. Now, in some states, they wouldn't allow this to happen. Now, you could be thinking like, damn, why doesn't it happen in Texas and Georgia and Florida and other places? It's because they'll put debate limits on, right? So on a federal level, when you have all these breakneck speed executive orders and things of that nature, and I'm not starting the audio from this until Cory Booker gets the mic back, because they're just talking to talk at this point, right? It's the fight. And I could say, for me at least, the biggest thing I didn't like that some of the Democrats are doing when Doge and Elon, Vice President Elon Musk and President Trump were out here pushing the narrative, the biggest thing I didn't like was the fact of y'all acting like regular people out here protesting, as if you can't go blockade the whole process with the rules of engagement. So the Democrats have decided, Cory Booker has decided to say, you know what, hey, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And we're going to go ahead and take lead. So I think this guy here is about to wrap up, because I don't think his filibuster would have been as powerful as everyone else's, right? Or Cory Booker. So Booker's making a name for himself. If you don't know, yes, he wanted to be president at one point. It didn't happen. I think he was engaged, could be married now, could be single again. You know, people will say different things in these streets, but we're not talking about the streets. We're talking about the politics today. But all that put together, I think there's a portion of not being performative, but being waking people up to what actually needs to happen. Because if the Republicans would say lose some of these special elections, but whether it's a judgeship or one of these special elections in Florida, it would tighten that dynamic of maybe 5 to 6 votes to control the House. Now, Vice President Musk, if you paid attention, I haven't posted the video yet, but I will post it. Vice President Musk was in Wisconsin and basically said, we need this to keep Western civilization and American democracy going, right? I completely get it. For what Elon does, but like the leaked Vance audio states, I don't understand why we sitting here talking about Elon as if he is one of the vice president. And you know, some people hate America. I love America. I don't have a problem with America, but he's not even American for real. He's from South Africa, and it's not to knock any South Africans. I love South Africa, right? It's the fact of like, bro, you going harder than us. You going harder than. Think about it. Elon is going harder than Christian conservative white folks that have been here, whose family have been ingrained here in America since the 1700s. I'm talking about 15th generation Americans. And all of a sudden, this new kid on the block whose first time is like, damn, okay, you buying up the EV cars, you doing all this other stuff, but you're not even us for real. And it's not to bring the Kendrick Drake situation into this, right? This is exactly what Kendrick was talking about, though, right? Not going to Atlanta to need a few dollars. You came all the way to America. You got your dollars for your SpaceX. You got your dollars in government contracts with Tesla. Now you right here like, you know what? You a super genius who was tricked. Think about it. A super genius who was tricked by his child into becoming transgender and he didn't realize it. The super genius that bought Twitter, millionaires' money, everything else, the vice president, Elon Musk, he's made most of his money, most likely they would say, off government contracts. And now he's clearing it all up. And he's between Social Security and all these breakneck things that are happening, even his conversations about white landowners in South Africa being treated racially unfairly, as if apartheid wasn't a thing. I mean, what is karma, right? There gets to a point of saying, why Elon going so hard and why isn't anybody checking it? Like, I've honestly blocked Elon on Twitter, X, whatever, and I still end up seeing his shit. Why? I don't want to see the propaganda because you have the most followers on Twitter, but I really feel that it's the bots and people are brainwashed to a point of saying like, damn, the Tesla, whatever it is, it's fucking everybody up. The most, I would say, honestly, respect for the situation, the most innovative thing I've seen Elon actually do was when the Fulio murder happened in Tampa. And I was trying to figure out which hotel put all these cameras in the damn parking lot to get this clear view. Not realizing those are all the Tesla cameras. Don't believe me, go watch, right? Oh, go check the Twitter feed. But either way, it's amazing. But this filibuster, 16 hours, almost a whole day worth of conversation from Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey. And I'm not showing or seeing where it ends. Now, he could be taking a break here. And I think this is, how he physically is going to be able to do is say, listen, hey, I'm going to carry this on for 8 hours. But what I need you to do is come in here and speak for 30 minutes or an hour so I can go take a nap. Right? Then I'm going to come back and reclaim my time. So he could be on some Ryan Leslie shit to be like, okay, I'm going to be up for 4 hours. I'm going to take a nap. Y'all speak, and I'm going to come back for 4 hours. Because he could be trying to have the longest filibuster in American history. And I don't know if the stream's going to last that long. But if it does, if there's a way that I could take a break, come back, and he's still talking, we're going to sit here and record the filibuster. But let's tap in. I wanted to wait for him to come back on the mic. But this guy clearly has something to say. So let's check out what he has to say. I'm going to check out the chat. I may also open up the stream on TikTok. But I appreciate everybody tapping in. Make sure if you first time here, if anything, I'm a hip hop lobbyist, professional lobbyist in Florida. I've been in the process roughly 15 years. Never wanted to work in politics. I fell into it. And I've been authentically me while I've been doing it, right? I've helped elect members to the United States Congress. I've helped pass laws, helped put constitutional amendments on the ballot, and getting appropriations or allocations or government contracts from government for nonprofit organizations that are working in urban Black communities and things of that nature. Really focus on economic development, energy, sustainability, and providing a second and better chance for kids in our community, and really not just complaining about politics, but actually working in it. So a lot of people in the comments, I know I've seen them, I got to make a video about it. They may question my experience, my knowledge base, my thought process, but you're not realizing that you're talking to somebody who actually does this shit and can do this shit for real. This is my professionally, and excuse me if this is offensive to anybody, this is my NBA, this is my NFL, this is my dope game, Trap Star, right? So when we're talking about 17.5 bit, that's what I'm trying to stack up in the budget every year for my clients, all the way up to a point of getting what I need for my community, right? For the kids, for the impact. And what I really focus on is not the nonsense of the politics in itself. I'm focused on the impact. If you can make sure that if you have a program working with HIV patients, AIDS patients, homeless mothers, right, that are in a situation where they need to provide for a newborn, if I can help you get funding from the state or local government so that you can provide or upgrade your facilities or just provide a better wherewithal for that community, then I'll do that. And I've done that, right? And even if it's to a point of, and I posted this earlier, helping prevent or at least providing services for families dealing with trauma, whether it's gun violence, whether it's suicide, whether it's whatever, it's a point of saying, okay, you lost a loved one and you have services, but you need more medical practitioners or therapists or something along those lines to help you get more partnerships so you can provide services for those families. Guess what? That's the things I end up being passionate about. Help using God's will for my life from a sustainability standpoint to say, all right, cool. Let me keep going down God's path and will for my life to impact policy for average everyday people, average everyday organizations, because I realized in my earlier years in this process that not a lot of us or organizations have a seat or even a conversation that's politically thought of in this process. So I like to at least carve out my little bit in that. But for that, I want to thank you for being here. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Let me check the chats and also open up the mic for this congressperson, this U.S. Senator that's speaking, or waiting on the good old Cory Booker to come back because he's on hour 16 plus of this filibuster.
Betrayal. So if you could just zero in once again on the central narrative that we're seeing play out during the Trump administration.
Well, you're putting it right. Donald Trump made commitments to America. We have quotes of him.
Hey, he's back now.
He used to say, oh, grocery, that's a really great word, I think he said. I'm going to bring down grocery prices. Well, grocery prices are up dramatically. The American dream, and many of us see that as owning a home. Well, you said it. Home prices are already up, but with these tariffs, they could go upwards of 10% more. You can be sure that Canadian lumber coming down here is going to be expensive. You can see Donald Trump making it more difficult to access health care, and this massive reconciliation is going to be a direct attack on working class health care, on health care of expectant mothers, on health care of Americans with disabilities, on health care of the majority of seniors in nursing homes. I'm about to go, my next chapter is all going to be about how Trump is rolling back common sense protections for clean air and water. And Elizabeth Warren said it very powerfully. He's reducing services, which is a service cut to people with Social Security. In so many ways, Americans should see these crises looming, these attacks, but ask yourself one economic question. With the stock market, who just had its worst quarter in years, and people's retirement savings, if they have it in 401ks, is going down. Ask yourself this question. I ask America to please ask yourself this financial question. Am I better off than I was 71 days ago?
71, 60 days? 71 days? I don't know, bro. I'm about to say.
Going because we see what's about to happen. With this whole sham reconciliation process, they're already trying to change the rules to obscure what they're doing. This is what they're doing. 3 things you should take home. Are we going to let them again, like they did with the ACA, with the Affordable Care Act, come after health care for 70+ million Americans by doing their proposed $880 billion cuts? Or are we going to allow them to blow a hole so big in the trillions of dollars, they're going to push it out for over 10 years? Or are they going to create such a deficit in our country that our children's children, they're stealing from our children's children and putting on a deficit that they're going to have to pay for? And number three, are they going to let them do all of that to renew tax cuts that the Congressional Budget Office at every independent agency says very clearly would add trillions, would give trillions of dollars of tax cuts that go disproportionately to the wealthiest in our nation? That's the addition.
Everybody's
That's what
tapping
we know.
on Twitch and YouTube.
it
I
doesn't
appreciate y'all
account
tapping in for the stream.
The things that he's doing to our allies. It doesn't account for how he's turning his back on NATO. It doesn't account for how he's praising Putin and calling Zelensky a dictator. It doesn't account for how he's giving advantage to China around the world, from the region in Southeast Asia all the way to Africa. It doesn't account for how he's already made it harder to enroll for the Affordable Care Act. It doesn't account for all the other things he's doing that we wake up and hear every day, not to mention trying to threaten Greenland, trying to threaten Panama, trying to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. All these things he didn't tell us he was going to do, didn't promise. He promised to lower your grocery prices, they're higher. He promised, I'll be a better steward of the economy. It's worse than we inherited. Over and over, he's breaking promises and doing outrageous things like disappearing people off of American streets, violating fundamental principles of this document, invoking the Alien Enemies Act from the 1700s that was last used to put Japanese Americans in internment camps? Do we see what's happening? How much is enough? That we have to stand and do something different, not just in this body, in America, because you know this. How we stopped him in his last term was the American people rose up, spoke up, stood up, rose up in the most extraordinary nonviolent demonstrations and demands. So thank you.
Yield for another question.
Yes, I will yield
for another
a question while retaining the floor.
And I see that my friend and colleague, Senator Alsterbrooks from the great state of Maryland, is on the floor. So I'm going to be very brief with this question. And I want to thank you for reminding us, of course, of the other great betrayal that's been going on over the last 70-plus days. There's the betrayal against the American people and working people here at home, but then there's the betrayal of our allies, like the Ukrainians, who Donald Trump is throwing under the bus as we speak, and other close partners and allies around the world. And I have to depart here for a moment because we have a hearing in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and I'm privileged to serve on that committee with the gentleman from New Jersey. And one of the people before the committee is their nominee to be our ambassador to Turkey. Now, of course, Erdogan just locked up.
As you see, this has been kind of the tennis match that's been happening. For everybody on Twitch and YouTube, is just tapping in for the Cory Booker filibuster. It's not telling. It's just process. I would say, honestly, this is just part of the process that a lot of people will never really understand, right? Why are the Democrats delaying Trump from implementing his plan for America? And it's real simple, because this is how you fight politically, right? I tell people all the time that, you know, there's white on white crime, there's black on black crime, there's crime, right? This isn't just like white on white crime opioid epidemic. Like, oh, I'm gonna serve you some opioids and, you know, your family is devastated because of it, right? This is process. This is policy. This is statutes. These are laws. These are spending resolutions, right? Keeping the government funded. People's jobs, the parks, the security, like all the different things, your Social Security, the veterans being paid, everybody, right? It's all a game, and this is a part of the process of the game. Hold on, Senator Booker's back.
About folks that are violating international law in many ways. So I think it's absurd, and you're right, it's another betrayal.
Will the senator yield for a question?
I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
First, I'd like to commend my colleague. I want to thank you, first of all, for your spiritual obedience. I want to thank you so much as well for your commitment and your dedication. And want to thank you as well for your courageous leadership. I want to thank you also, Senator Booker, for your recognition of the time that we are living in. These are times that we will recount, our children will recount, and I think all of those of good conscience who watch during this time and say nothing will also be held to account. As the senator has eloquently remarked, these are not normal times. We're watching an administration that is drunk with vengeance, hatred, and surrounded by incompetent people who are taking callous actions, who are inhumane, and because of their incompetence are making costly mistakes that will harm the American people and denigrate the hardworking people of this country by proposing tax cuts. And these tax cuts are not designed to help the average American person. They are designed to help billionaires. And they're doing so by firing thousands of middle-class workers and more. What we are seeing before our eyes is not only unconscionable, we know as well that it is deeply immoral, that it is inhumane, it is wicked. We are seeing with
just trying to get another channel up. I may go live on TikTok.
So happy to tear down, but I am
as well here. We're going to open up another campus page. Welcome more people on YouTube. To the channel, we have a vertical and a horizontal stream. I appreciate everybody tapping in so far on Twitch, YouTube, and let's go ahead and start the TikTok, y'all. I might as well get Kick going too, man. We live streaming. Not doing MLB The Show yet. Games on Twitch or TikTok. No, I actually opened up. No, who to send. I'm gonna stop mixing up channels. So I've been sending gaming content to the. Wait, we're gonna tap back to the senator from Maryland.
It affects those who did not. So this administration firing HUD intended has effectively.
It'll be interesting to see how were community for all the people who they've been in the party anymore, and we've learned that in 2000. We believed in the Republican families and lives that were cusp of where we could. They do next. I think the blind allegiance to. But let's get back.
This is a problem. We cannot lay excited. This is a vision that is going to bring tariffs that make this country close to the majority of liberty. So what they're doing to the American, they're hurting.
All-nighters. Between these speeches, brain brush, some medicine.
No, the prayer. This country is becoming less safe for people. Sense environmental protections.
Okay.
Threatening our harder and harder for working families. Projects that would create more. What we're seeing. Water, cleanest air to cut along power plants. He's letting polluter rates of asthma
and it goes to a point of
having been in continuous session
since yesterday.
Pray. Filling our hearts from our steps. The Capitol work this day. Inspire them to your will. In your
not too long, but he's right back to it.
Mute for a question.
IVF. Someone.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Reflecting on the American people.
And J.D. Vance, Musk, and Donald Trump. Now, I know it's President Musk, Vice, but he's going that worse than how they thought. And these other things that are happening, win by 30 points. There is no other option. Not going to change what they're doing. Tube streams, they may have to start the verse. But let me know if the stream is okay. Tube vertical, and you're free and able to do that shit on your laptop. I may get some people on Instagram. I like TikTok. Congressional woman, this senator
lived up to their promises.
A lot of executive orders, and an issue only because they go into the
Halloween time and Christmas time. Commodities affected. They can't. Hundreds of years old. An American company. Farmers have been betrayed.
Now, if you don't know,
they are eighth tiny. They don't think
people don't understand. Cory Booker is here. He is again.
I've told folks she is truly. A lot of people. Adam Zipkin, who's been to him. I had committees I loved. All the issues I care about. They need more people stand belly up.
We need to.
They should not have to deal with uncertainty to Texas. Putting them in already made with our farmer contracts, yet starting.
And if you didn't to the Russian-Ukraine war, we are going to have to drive the thing in the grocery store today. Remember that was on the Ag Commission. Nobody cares about the agriculture. Core students supporting some of these committees, right? There's a of leaders who can get you the main ones who know that was passed to help farmers pass. And I don't know the numbers off. We're not doing this anymore. What happened, right? Because if it's about the American people, which would be the farmers, then what do we do? Make it more efficient. The most who's really going. Like I know different person at this agency, the real email, you wasted. It's designed to be behind 8 balls to see the Evan start making building blocks so by let it go forward. But I've been talking about during this filibuster.
To make sure that drought, to look out for them. It's so tiny, and when you take away, you're going to lose those people at their
impact on our economy overall. It happens.
Have so much common cause possible to independent that the farmers want that help them to be better. They want to bring that in a ball. Yield for
expansion, but I want to start with people of both expansion. Expanded insurance themselves. People with actually could get Medicaid expansion done in New Hampshire, including, and here's another number that we address in March. Expansion covered her tree services, laid off from her job as part of her health and got sicker and sicker. Has been working once, and she got, New Hampshire has been that.
Push it up for a little bit. I'm going to take a little part of the speaking.
Treated, got expansion. But of course, to Medicaid so that they can pay for. Republicans have proposed cutting up to 3,000 children in my state.
Back, y'all.
And all told, I just met at the airport out off too. So which may take coverage away from, by the way, for people who are already billionaires.
So before I answer the being serving here in this, after New Jersey, I love your state. I love Trailblazer, a glass kind, have the kind of leadership. Let's bring people, and this might be a 17-hour. We've got to find a way to put there with days driving up coal while disrespecting Republicans. You can. We want to talk about left or is a moral moment. Elected as governor, can't win in New Hampshire. I've been like, if you're not going north, don't care how much you do the healthcare section, Medicaid. Cut, it'll crush, and blue drive to more to say these things. $1 billion, so much damage to hospitals, where the taking me when we were exec budget, they're not lowering expanded healthcare access. Makes no sense. Republican in the House voting, he's a fiscalist. I can't vote for this. And so my colleague, does not slip into of congressional hurt Americans. Beg of you, we all swore to uphold it. How do our founders begin? We, the people of the United States, in order to form a common defense, promote the general welfare, trillions of dollars of debt, should have access to uncertainty and security that if someone in my States of America or people who can't afford their health care bills, former governor, there are a number of states that have these things called triggers, automatic triggers, that if the funding for Medicaid reduces to covering 90% of the costs, what happens in those states, $880 billion, maybe you say, we'll just do $250 billion of an axe. States are going to lose their expansion. People are going to suffer and get hurt. Why? You say business people thrive. We don't hate rich people. Using the ingenuity, applying it, and being successful. But you and I both know that the richest people in this country don't need more tax cuts. It is morally wrong. It is fiscally wrong. It is wrong in the name of God and America. How could we be doing this to ourselves? I yield to your questions, but I have to read the words. I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Well, thank you for yielding the questions, compliments. I do have a question for you about Social Security, and then I think another colleague of mine has additional questions. But look, as you know, you just talked about my wonder always made me memorize the preamble to the United States Constitution. So as I listened to you read it, I thought,
shots fired on the Senate floor. Where's the parliamentarian?
I hope my mom knows New Hampshire's a small state that they want to applications and coverage right now. My folks in the North Country will have a office. And meanwhile, of course, it's via the telephone, which, as you know, many people who are on Social Security find the telephone the easiest way to make a connection, get technical assistance. He says he wants to cut $700 billion from, as we're looking at a administration that says that it wants to make things more efficient, but is actually laying people off Social Security office. My concerns people to get on Social Security because actually Trump and Musk are running for office. But now ways in which seniors, not charity, people impacts. If this
you said, my colleague, through, I have to say, when I read about the person taking care of, it's a lot of folks, but here's the craziness. He makes people insecure about it. My mom lives in this amazing senior home, Las Ventanas, in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the stories my mom tells, Elon Musk calling it a Ponzi, post in the land to left-leaning papers, receiving many letters talking about, and Brother Howard Luckman, who I know, I don't know what you were thinking, Howard. I just don't understand. Do you understand how many millions of us a payment they can't make their rent? They can't. So much fear, and I compared it and a Donald Trump. Didn't attack people, didn't demean people, their fears. Here itself. What an opposite in leadership. And so, yeah, there are a lot of people who right now don't know, but then my colleague from Massachusetts comes in and makes the already done benefit cuts, because when you is missing a check or have to a senior, I got heard from people in their 90s. Told you, I was trying to make you proud. I wanted to get as many customer service. They're already doing cuts. They're already launching, heaping insecurity on our seniors, heaping inconvenience on our seniors, heaping fear upon our seniors, heaping insecurity, making people lose sleep. This is wrong, 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 wrong. This is not a model of leadership. It's a model of cruelty and mean-spiritedness and hurting people. When is it enough, America? When is it enough that we say it may not be my grandma? You cannot love America, you're a patriot, because patriotism is love of country. Or grandmother is hurting, is afraid that I'm going to stand up and do what I can to comfort them and fight for them. Right or left, it is right or wrong. This is not a partisan talking about John Lewis. It is time for, even though you made fun of me for in my tired state not remembering the very important preamble to the Constitution.
Very well.
Thank you very much. That actually means I take. I have something to get off my chest about you. I woke up I woke up yesterday morning, and the first thing I did, now this shirt's all wrinkled and a little ripe, but the first thing I did is grab a gift from you. People don't get up to see how we have to pack bags right now. You were one of the kindest, because in this moment, if people are watching, I want people to go there. We had a conversation. You came to my office. It's always a sign of respect when you come to the senator's office. A little resistance, if you don't mind me outing you. Social Security, talking about Medicare. And I asked you for fun, let people see it. And then you kind of made me pause when you said, well, my mother's getting kind of old. It's getting older. I love her so much. Mother. It was one of the sweetest things. And you choked me up, you jerk. Because you said, what I love to do with my mom is to dance with her in the kitchen. When we're in the kitchen making food or something, this is what I hope people will do right now. I said, well, why don't you record that? And I didn't think you would do it. You would ask her if you could do it, but you then put up one of the most beautiful videos I've ever seen from one of my colleagues of you and your mom in the kitchen. I think it's on your Instagram page. And I have looked at that video. I'm probably all the views right now of my colleague, this big United States senator, loving his mother so much. They're elders. They take care. They reminded me of what it was. He rescued more people and getting lower and lower towards poverty. That turns your own yield for a question until getting that. Oh yes, I yield for a question. Afraid of White House, because for you now that I've gotten this off my chest and hopefully embarrassed you, but maybe added a few more views to my favorite video, I yield for a question while retaining the floor.
Well, just from her, but I want to thank my friend now for well over 17 hours. Well, we represent different parts of the country, Senator Booker. We have the same values. I learned from you the importance of treating people with respect and dignity. That's what we should all be talking about here today, every day. I've also learned a lot about grace from you. Now, I come to the floor to ask you a question about farmers. You and I both appreciate the long hours that farmers put in to take care of that soil, their families, the planning that goes into this, sowing seeds. Sometimes you have to do a little weeding. Not something that can be taken for granted. And when they ask me, well, why is someone just eating potato chips or Doritos?
Yes.
There's food deserts everywhere. But we could do something about that. We have programs in place that recognize the importance of getting someone a meal that needs that meal, supporting our farmers out there to sow those seeds, to help them with their planting. But what I'm seeing right now, Senator Booker, is our farmers have been on the receiving end of these federal funds being taken away from the United States Department of Agriculture, these reckless tariffs that are hurting farmers and ranchers just as much as they're hurting anyone in America. Outbreaks, bird flu. People know what the cost of eggs are at the store now. And then they look into what's going on. Epidemiologists. I was in the Ag Committee earlier today, Senator Booker, and I was asking some questions to USDA. And I learned that on March 7th, 2025, under the Trump administration, the United States Department of Agriculture terminated the Local Food and Schools Program and the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement. And then they March 24th, that the fiscal farmers and ranchers and people back home food from our local farmers. Now, our local farmers aren't just making a decision on what seed's going to be planted so they can sell the lettuce next week. These farmers and ranchers about what program, food banks, different groups around the people that need it most. That sounds like respect and dignity.
Yep.
What's not respectful is when the Trump administration gives them a few days' notice and pulls the rug from under them and cancels the program that's going to allow the food bank, their customer, to buy their food. What do the farmers have to do now across America, Booker? But here's one of the dirty little secrets. All of these programs that are being taken away from the American people, it's to find an extra dollar for this tax policy under Donald Trump that my constituents started calling back in 2017 the Trump tax scam. Wow. Right? Well, why are you calling it that? And they said, well, everyone promised me, I'm making less than the median income, making less than $80,000. I was told that we were going to get, but that's not what happened. Most of this went to families and folks making over $2.8 million. I don't have anything against those families. I wish them well. I want them to make more. 10 that were told that they were being prioritized, but they're the ones that told me anyway, that this was a Trump tax scam. That's the secret. That's where all this money's going. So, Senator Booker, whether I'm in a grocery store and I'm chatting with constituents, we're out there looking at egg prices or whatever it may be, they're concerned about what's going on here, and all they're asking for me to share with my colleagues here, they have the votes, my Republican colleagues. Just be honest. Treat my constituents with the respect and dignity so that they can plan, so that a single mom that has a child whose Medicaid may get ripped away, but that child has cancer, how are they going to plan for care in 6 months? So that farmer who started planting seeds recently but was planning over a year on what to do so they could find another customer so that they're not going to lose that farm as well. Now, before I ask you this question, sir, I want to end with this. Story of Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address, his second. And the man whose reviewed matter, when asked his opinion of Lincoln's performance, former slave and abolitionist Frederick Douglass replied, "It was a sacred to stand alongside you." So, Senator Booker, the question that my constituents and I have for you is, can the farmers and ranchers of America afford to pay for another Trump tax scam with all this nonsense that's going on? I mean, it's a question I get when I'm at church. I say not during church, but after church is okay.
Yeah.
Or at the grocery store. But when I'm visiting with folks back home, this is what they're asking me.
And thank you for the question. You said it, the same word, rug from out from under producers that need stability and reliable markets. Because you and I sit, right by each other in the Ag Committee, and we see this connection that you so beautifully say, this idea that we are separate from each other, the invisible line is deeply connected to the person in my community. And you talk to that farm, they have pride in their soil, they want to be stewards of the land, and they want to create a vibrant American food system. And they rely on people that empower them in that process and don't pull the rug out from under them, drag back contracts, cut programming, especially not those programs that help them get. You talk to the food banks. They'll attest that families, how grateful they are for that fresh fruits and veg. When I heard the new Secretary of HH&S, what do they do when they get in there? They cut the very programs that help our farmers and get fresh fruits and vegetables to kids to deal with chronic disease. How could you? get healthy, nutritious foods. It makes no sense. It makes no economic sense. It hurts our farmers. It hurts our farm workers. It hurts our end users. Let me think about this for a second. Friend for a long time, and consistency of times, and you've talked about the climate crisis, you've talked about the Supreme Court scams. You've not only educated members in this body on these issues, you've educated Americans every time I hear you speak. So I'm a little worried right now, but I'm going to step out on faith and yield for a question while retaining the floor.
So, first question. It's been 17 hours. How are you doing?
I shall not complain. I shall not complain, but thank you for checking in on me, my friend.
Yeah, well, thank you for what you're doing. Second question, if you would yield for a second
Yes,
question without yielding the
I yield
floor.
for a question while retaining the floor.
One of the ways in which I try to discuss astonished, whatever, is to describe it as the rule of the looters and the polluters. The looters trying to figure out how to get even deal. That doesn't seem to be security, so that they can send in broken, his little musk rats from the public, only instead of stealing through government future into our dark money in this building, their privilege to pollute for, to put it bluntly, pretty behind the climate denial scheme, who are out to wreck the American government so that it can't regulate their conduct or make them behave like honest bankers and investors or insurers or whatever, of our beautiful whims of the...
That I meet wealthy people like a group called the Patriotic Millionaires who advocate for progressive tax policy and are the first to say and speak out against. Patriotism, by definition, means love of country. If you don't love your fellow countrymen and women, how do you love your country? Or more dollars. You would not be Republican Congress. Wait a minute. From disabled children, from seniors, in love, you would say, Donald Trump, go screw yourself.
If the senator would yield for another question and request your response to the observation that not only is this an appalling manifestation of greed by people who already have more money than they're able to spend in their entire lifetimes, but the manner in which itself, because to corrupt and degrade this great American democracy that we are all here to do phony front groups. So it pops up as dark money in elections. And of course, the benefit is up in the super PAC that is supporting them. And of course, the big donor knows that they gave the money. So the deal between the secret, because it goes through front groups and into the super PAC, everybody else is left out of the joke.
Yes.
And so, you know, bad enough that they're here arguing for excess benefits for themselves compared to regular Americans. Worse, they're using dark money, corruption to get there. So how is that patriotic?
I want to answer this question so badly, but the crazy thing is the person best to answer this question is the person who asked it. You have sat here and given this detailed analysis to show how this group of very wealthy billionaires in this country are so perverting our system by creating these front groups that then interfere in our democracy in the most disgusting of ways. Even if you are like me and you that can't stand the decision Citizens United, even in Citizens United, the majority opinion said, really projected that we should do the Disclose Act, which we have tried to bring to this floor and get passed. It says no more dark money. Billionaires who so with all of their money drown out the voices and politics of other Americans. A great example of that is they're getting so reckless that many billionaires aren't even hiding it anymore, i.e. Elon Musk. He's like saying, hey, I'm going to roll up dollars there and then give away as if to election with my overwhelming flood the zone amount of billions of dollars. And by the way, hey, it's a pretty good investment, right? We live in a country right now that we're giving more and more ability for billionaires to use their wealth to corrupting to this. Unchecked corporate contributions, billionaire dollars, dark money in front organizations that nobody in the Senate has outlined better than you. happen. You all should write laws. Many. And how many times have we failed? 15? Guys, I don't know, and I'm so grateful for this man, because all my colleagues who are assembled here know, doggedly and determinedly, you have stood right there with charge. It's so threatening to them that more people will know about how big money is corrupting democracy. And so, isn't there something here, my great concept, a meme coin, where we now, I have my team reading about it right now, Marx, incredible Arab wealth. You want to pay off the Donald Trump? You know, because his government is being run like this. It's not JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You've seen how he's behaved. It's ask not what your country can do for you. Look at the evidence of the last 71 days. If you are a law firm that comes to him and offers him $40 million of pro bono work, God, how many people I love in Newark had that kind of legal representation, pro bono. What you're going to do for him? We're seeing it. You want a merger? You want a merger? What do? Give $1 million to his inaugural committee, money to him through his meme coin, kowtow to him in any way possible. Senator White House, nobody has outlined this more than I have. Nobody, more than you have, excuse me. And I encourage people, I feel like now I'm advertising everybody's social media. Go to his YouTube. I call him a YouTube star. I'm not joking. You have on YouTube, I know, just great details and outline about how the corruption of money in politics is getting worse and worse and worse in this era of billionaires like Elon Musk who have no shame anymore. $100 million in a primary challenge is telling them to do. This is, you use the word all the time, and I'm going to say it over and over. This is corrupting to our democracy and amounts to another assault on our Constitution. How much does the Disclose Act bring back the dark money, put light on it, shine the light of truth on this web of dark money lies? How long will we endure this? I hope that you and I are in the Senate when you no longer have to give that speech, because we took action on the Senate floor.
Will the senator yield for a question?
A co-conspirator in my life of trying to cause good trouble. You are one of the most powerful people in the United States Senate, yet you have never lost who lives this ideal. Pro tem of the Senate, honorable soul, you're a lot more seniority than me. You've got a great hideaway with a view. With a view. One day, maybe. But I just want to say thank you, Patty Murray, for being so kind to me. And you're showing up right now gives me a lot of strength, puts more fuel in my tank. And head of our Democrat appropriations, so I'm obligated by the state of New Jersey to be very obsequious to you. I yield for a question.
I'm
not on camera yet, giving the senator
an
update some of the stuff, but I want to appreciate everybody who tapped in. Everybody tapped in and see the filibuster happening on the House floor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.
Education was going to be gone, and there wasn't a watchdog anymore, or somebody to help some kind of scientific experiment that is now being dismantled. What happens to their hope? I hear from people on so many topics, seniors, who are waiting on hold for hours and then getting hung up on because there's nobody to answer the phone anymore. These are basic values that we have as a country, that we care for other human beings, and we're there as a country for them. And you are showing that fight today, and thank you for what you are doing today. It is so important. You are the voice of so many people today, and I so appreciate it. Now, I want to change the dynamic a little bit. I wanted to come today. You have talked about the impact in so many areas in our country, but I wanted to come and ask you about something really personal to me, and that is the impact on our veterans today. The senator may not know this, but when I came on the Veterans Committee, and relied on his VA care when he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. But I also, when I was in college during the Vietnam War, many of my friends and colleagues were on the streets demonstrating, and my heart was out to them, but I was thinking about those men and women my age who were going over to Vietnam and coming back and injured in many different ways. So I actually did my war and served on what was the psychiatric age, in college age, who'd been sent there and came back with severe mental health impacts. Now, today we call that PTSD, but at the time we didn't know it. And I was looking at these and came home, says, I will go for you when you get home. And our promise to each and every one of them was, if you serve your country in the military, we will take care of you when you get home. That is a promise I hold near and dear to my heart, which is why I asked to be on the Veterans Committee when I first came here, first woman ever. And I will hear, and there'd be a lot of veterans who'd come and talk to me and tell me what's going on, what needed to be fixed. But always at that time, I will share with my colleagues, quietly to me and say, I need to share with you that there's not the facilities. I go to the VA, and it's a men's-only kind of place. There's no OBGYNs. There's nobody to do mammographies. And I often don't feel comfortable sitting in that waiting room with a whole lot of people after I have had the experiences that I've had, and there's no place for women to go. So we've worked really hard to make sure the VA works for women. We've worked really hard to make sure the VA addresses the issues of today, the PACT Act that we worked so hard to make sure that men and women speak for 2 hours here about all the women who we asked as a country to serve overseas or to here at home, to in service of all of us and the promises we've made them. And I think, what are they doing? They're undermining the very value that all of us have given to Americans who serve above and beyond. So when I know, because I'm getting the phone calls, like I'm sure you are, from a VA researcher who has been taken off the job, fired, unexplained, told he wasn't doing a good enough job somehow, doing research on basic things like prosthetics, or doing basic research on PTSD, or doing basic research on the kinds of things that our men and women who serve overseas are subjected to and need to come home and have the special hearing. This administration is about to cut 80,000. You didn't hear me wrong. 80,000 about that.
I'm so grateful you brought this up. Veterans in my state and heard these awful stories about how long it took to get gynecological care, the waits that they had to do, the indignities they had to endure. And I'm glad we've made so many strides, in part thanks to your leadership in New Jersey, with special dedicated facilities to our women veterans, with shortening those wait times, cut 83,000 positions from the VA. And you know this, you said it, this just years ago, this government and benefit expansion in VA history. To meet this increased demand, the VA added 61,000 employees in 2023. These new hires included claim processors, physicians, nursing staffs, medical support assistants, food service workers, and housekeeping staff. And now the progress this body made is in jeopardy by this 83,000. Care amid layoffs and budget cuts. Veteran affairs, care, VA health care benefits in a generation under the PACT Act. Collins attended DAV's recent midwinter conference where he came from behind the podium, walked into in recent appearances on CBS Eye on Veterans podcast, has not demonstrated how it's going to keep its promise. They have not demonstrated it. DAV also does not have a lot of information about what's planned, he said. Can you imagine that? Leaving all these veterans with insecurity and uncertainty. Now we're hearing about the 83,000 people losing their jobs, 20,000 or so folks, cut that many people, 100,000 new enrollees.
I appreciate everybody tapping in on YouTube.
Heard about specific performance problems, not changed, and they remain to hoe when it comes to their health and how it's going to affect the fight to pass the. When we started talking operations Agent Orange, we're not against stand veterans. Complex issues, cuts, and staff reductions will on veteran-owned small business fired from their VA job cuts and plans on fighting for them affected by this. So aim.
That's the part about people EI, whether it's something else. You collectively get to a point of your base has to the midterms or the special.
So many veterans for the National Park Service are safe for serve my country to do the same. And to everyone who's listening, that turned. It doesn't mean that you owe to administration.
Thank you for the question. No, this is from Axios. How one group particularly hard sense of purpose and belonging. It's not more than 200%. Of the says William Attig, who was deployed one jobs for now, or my country and provide for my didn't want to put his job at, says a disabled veteran to land his job that the Pentagon said it would fire next. I know the hosts are growing uneasy, an exception for him. said a White House spokesman, said the federal government has gone through a lot of hoops with them. Plus, though, another uniform when he says, and for a veteran is help all volunteer force willing to serve 1,000 jobs from the VA alone.
Leader in the Army, best that are serving. So how do you?
In the military, many of them with visible wounds, lines of service. This, he says he values veterans. Then Doge target. 5 days since she, please, I'm searching for answers no one could give her. First as a sergeant, first class logistics.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna be
to somebody.
Like 2 a.m. and watching bits and pieces of it. That's what this is all about. To Congress, to state legislation, and we want to about not. I'm not going to act. What people elect is what, and you can only get minimal funding to the state government and their pension, their paycheck, everything. All right, cool. Anything about the young on social media as well, and using Maxine wants to be something for people saying, you know what, where you can politics is old school politics, but and part of the process is you got to apply what they want to be something different out of the chambers, doing past those doors. With that, I did say that. Now, I think a lot of people, Google will tell on a measure if no other senators speak, so this is the filibuster. And college stats, like he was an elite football, old school. He can wait, football. I think he can make it. I think what I may do, I want to realize, like, damn, and so many things he said that they're going to get lost, that you most likely do, my vertical, and that's okay. But I do appreciate everybody. I appreciate you taking the time. After that, they were talking about, again, hope y'all have a great day.
That is what the trying to rail our firefighters in the hope that the Lux worked. And by the way,
I was
come close to
before my career.
And when the income
since the 1920s, you wouldn't see it under different circumstances. But for where he's doing and kind of 20s era that they're 1820, 1920 now is happening today. Cotton, 18th century, whatever, right? Talking about Trump, having no one able to now to say, all right, cool, Harris and everything else that's happening. Votes of people may have happened, the depression, all those other things, respectfully, and just ride the wave. Okay, cool videos. I may release it on. It's good information to know while they're paying attention to how to. But we've been over 2 hours. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being you.